Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that what you wear has the power to change how you feel? Project Endure apparel is designed to remind you that easy won't make you stronger, and that growth is an uncomfortable choice that we all have the privilege to make every day. Look good, feel good, and perform good. Head to the link in the show notes to shop Project Endure apparel and keep on doing hard things. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 98. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very, very, very special guest in Howell, New Jersey, Mike Skrzenski. Mike, how are you?
Good, Joe. How are you, buddy? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I'm doing great, and it's my pleasure. We were talking before we hit record about how we're related, and we came to the conclusion that your Aunt Ray is my grandma. I call her Grammy. I know she's listening to this, and we're not sure what that makes us. We're cousins of some sort, but we couldn't come up with the term. If you had to introduce yourself to people listening, people who might know you, but a lot of people who probably don't, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, good question. Wow. I guess, from a professional standpoint or just a personal standpoint?
Maybe both.
Both. I guess professionally, I've been working in the TV industry for over 30 years, news producer primarily. So I've been doing that since I got out of college, majored in communication. So I've been working in the field for a long time. So I call myself maybe a news junkie for a long period of time. And then personally, I guess just, I don't know, pretty simple, faithful man, strong faith, family guy, someone who just likes to, listen to others. If I could lead by example, I try to do that as often as I can, but just a happy guy, just a happy guy.
Yeah, I think as we get into this conversation, people will realize just how powerful that statement is, that you're a really happy guy. I've got a couple things that I want to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, but I know you work in news, and I know that a lot of times listening to the news, consuming the news puts a negative taste in my mouth. I think a lot of the news that I am consuming or that we consume as a society is maybe not the most positive. Have you felt that by working in the industry, it's been hard for you to stay positive through seeing all of that and working there?
Sure, that's a good question. So yeah, like I said, I've been in the news for over 30 years now, and when I got into news, um, the stories have completely changed. The headlines have completely changed. I'm sure you've seen that just in the last 5 to 10 years, right? Everything really is now politics 24/7. And even if there isn't a story that's technically politics, there's always a political tie to it. So years ago, we might have a story about a runaway train, okay, and we'd follow that story for 3 hours. But nowadays, we might do that story on a runaway train, and you're going to find out who owns the company. You're going to find out if what his political party is. You're going to find out who donated to the company. So I think there is a lot of anger for people that watch news today, and I don't blame them. I can't say I do blame them. Um, I guess we're partially responsible for that, but there is a cry out for people that they do want to hear. They do want to hear what's going on in Washington. Let's put it that way. And often that leads to only one side of the aisle. Um, there is a middle ground somewhere, and we kind of lead. At least I know when I do work in news, I always prided myself in making sure that we gave people both sides of a story, let them decide, which is really what news is supposed to be. You're supposed to see it, read it, you decide what you want to decide about it. Too often, yes, I do agree that most news out there today is maybe decided for you already. and maybe it's trying to change your opinion on how you already feel. And I think, again, I know other industries, other channels do it one way. I still feel we try to do it the right way where I work and give people the story and let them decide on their own. But yeah, I get the anger. I definitely get the anger for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard because part of me, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, you want to protect your space, you want to protect your energy, and at the same time, you want to be informed. And it can be hard to find that balance between those two things. There's this great quote from John Cater who said, "You don't have to see eye to eye to walk hand in hand. You just want to go in the same direction." And I
Mm,
feel like a lot of times we see conflict as this negative, but I think conflict can be a positive. It can get people talking. And, as long as we want to go in the same direction, I think that's what matters most. And there are people out there like yourself, like I would like to think I'm this kind of person who want to make the world a better place. And even if we might not see eye to eye with somebody else, we can still choose to walk forward with them. And I will kind of transition that into a story where you and I interacted a long time ago. And I don't know if you remember this, but when I was diagnosed with Best disease back, I was probably 10, maybe 11 at the time when I
hmm
was going through this. I was really struggling to come to terms with what that meant for me. With life is so unfair. I was really upset. I felt like a victim, and at that point in time, we had interacted maybe a few times through family functions, and you got on the phone with me and we talked, and you told me your story for the first time, and I'll never forget that because I hung up the phone and I no longer felt like a victim. I felt like what I was going through was kind of small potatoes compared to what other people were going through. And that came from that conversation. So I'll lead with this. What's the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle in life? And is it the thing that I think it is?
Okay. Well, first of all, I definitely remember that conversation. I actually really enjoyed speaking to you, and I'm glad you got that out of the conversation and help you move forward a little bit. I know in my life, I had an older brother, Eddie. He passed away. Oh boy, he was 30, so 1994, so a long time ago. But he was my older brother. He was also in a wheelchair, which I guess we'll get to in a second. And he passed away, and Eddie was a little bit, I guess, worse than I am as far as disability goes. So I always viewed Eddie as my role model in the sense that what he went through, I knew eventually I would be where he was. Um, and I also knew that there were people out there worse off. And I say worse off, I mean physically. And they dealt with it with a smile on their face. And that literally got me out of bed and still does every single day. So if I'm able to pass that along to anyone, even if it's someone that doesn't have a disability, whatever it is, knowing that, look, it does get better. You can get through it. And it's okay to view the world by saying, you know what? I'm more fortunate, maybe physically, than someone else. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. If that helps you strive and do hard things, as you like to say. That's okay. And I view it that way. I view it okay if I look at it and say, well, that person is maybe paralyzed from the neck down. God bless them, and they got a smile on their face. And here I am complaining about, I don't know, whatever. And as you were get into, I do have a disability. It's called spinal muscular atrophy, kind of a form of a muscular dystrophy. So I'm in a wheelchair. I've been in a wheelchair since 19. It's not a paralysis. It's just a weakness of the muscle. So I can't walk, I can't stand or anything like that. My upper body is it's getting weaker as I get older. Um, but again, it's something that I look at and say, okay, I have to deal with it. I have to move forward. What else am I going to do? Am I going to just sit around and just, I don't know, complain about it and just sulk all day? No, I'm going to think about what's really out there in the world and what could I do to make this place a better place. And that's really what I strive to do every day. I mean, that's what I've tried to do every day. And I have tough days, of course, but we all do. You just got to kind of get up and keep moving forward. So I don't know. Did I answer your question? Your original question was,
What's the hardest thing you've ever had to handle in life?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely my disability for sure. right? It's not easy, but I don't have a choice. Right? I don't have that choice. We have a lot of choices in life. We can move forward on a lot of different things. You can, go on road A, road B, road C. Um, for me, I have a disability. That's it. Now I could do things in my life to um, make myself feel better physically, mentally. But in the end, I'm going to be in this wheelchair for life. I get it, and that's okay. I've learned to accept that a long time ago. That's only through my faith that I've been able to do that in my family. Um, but it's certainly the hardest thing that I ever had to do, and I still continue to do today.
For people listening who might not be familiar with your condition
Mhm.
and the prognosis, the outlook, the way that it progresses, what is the ultimate progression of
Sure.
this?
Kind of unknown, right? So, it I was born with this muscular dystrophy. I call it a muscular dystrophy. It's the technical term again is spinal muscular atrophy. Um, so it's something that was I was born with. I was able to walk no problem, run up until around age 13. Again, my brother had it. So my family dynamics is this. This will help a little bit. I had an older brother, Eddie. He was born with it. Same thing, but he progressed a little bit. I think by 10, 11, 12, he couldn't walk as much. Two sisters in between that, perfectly fine, no disability, nothing. My parents don't have it or anything like that. And then I came along, was born with it, and I have a younger brother, Donald, who is fine. So the prognosis is I was always told that it won't affect my internal organs, right? It doesn't affect my heart, my lungs, which is just a blessing. It's really just a muscle. It just really kind of atrophies my muscle. It kind of weakens my muscles over a slow period of time. Now, being in a wheelchair has its own problems because that's where your lungs and your heart and things like that can be affected. Again, it's not because of the muscular dystrophy, but it's because you're sitting all the time and you don't get the. So over a period of time, I do have some issues with my lungs and my heart. But these are things that I try to control and I work on. Uh, but I guess prognosis wise, those are some of the things I have to make sure I keep an eye out for. But the disease itself, the muscular dystrophy itself, really, I was told should not have any impact on my life expectancy or anything like that. So again, to me that's a blessing because there's so many people out there that even my disease, my spinal muscular atrophy, has different types, and the one I have is the least um, harmful, if you will, the one that will not affect my life expectancy. The other three do. So there is a blessing in itself, right? So um, that's the way I kind of look at it. But yeah, so I just keep chugging along until I can't.
Now, you've come to terms with the fact that this is your life.
Mhm.
What was it like before you came to terms with that? And how did it look to actually, was there a light bulb moment where you said, you know what, I've struggled for a long time with this, but I can't control it. So I'm going to throw my hands up and just surrender?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, Joe. So I guess, as a teenager, just like any teenager, um, you're you are in sports or whatever you're doing, you're in clubs, you're with your friends, and you kind of just you get older and you develop, and whether you get bigger, smaller, shorter, taller, you just deal with that. So for me, in my early teens, I was playing sports, I was doing what everybody was doing, but all along, my legs were getting a little bit weaker. I was starting to lose my balance a little bit more. And these are things you're trying to hide from people. You're trying to hide from your friends because, it's not cool to be falling down or, it's you want to be with the guys. You want to play baseball, hit the ball and run the bases. But I would say by 16, 17, around that time, I started to realize, okay, I found my friends, my true friends that I still have to this day, my core friends who knew what was going on with me. So I didn't have to act any different around them. I didn't have to put on an act or anything. So as my life went on and I started to progressively get worse, and by 19, I was using a wheelchair for full time. So I haven't been out of the wheelchair since 19. Um, it hit me pretty early that this was going to be my life. Once you hit that wheelchair, reality sets in. And then from there, I guess the acceptance probably comes. That's just a road. That's an individual thing. For me, probably around I would say my late 20s. And the reason being I choose that is because it's when I started to kind of move up at work, got a promotion, and I was really working in the news industry is a grind. It's a grind. And my commute, I had a just the most ridiculous commute in the world. I used to have to commute about 7 hours a day from Central Jersey to New York City. Yeah. Because at the time, New Jersey Transit only had two buses that had lifts on them, wheelchair lifts. And I would say 3 out of the 5 days a week, the lift would break. And I would have to wait for the other bus, which was usually coming from South Jersey. And yeah, it was a nightmare. So I would say from it hit me as a light bulb when I started doing that commute, and I would wake up at 4 every morning and I get home around 11:30 at night. And I did that, Joe, every day, just grinded it every day. And I said, wow, I said, if I wasn't in this wheelchair, I wouldn't have to deal with this. So I think that's really when the light bulb went on and said, okay, but here is my reality. This is what I have to do. So how can I make this better? And I accepted it. I made a plan. I told myself in 3 or 4 years, I'm going to do this commute. And then I'm going to go upstairs to the bosses. And I'm going to tell them that I either can work from home or I'm going to have to just quit. And this is before anybody ever worked from home. There was no working from home. Laptops weren't even a thing yet. Um, I was working off a little BlackBerry and a pager, and that was it. And I stuck to my plan, and I did that. 3 or 4 years later, I went upstairs. I told them what I had to do, and they said no problem at all. And so, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
That did. And that commute is wow, that's hard to imagine.
Yeah,
Um, were there points in there where you thought about just throwing in the towel and saying this commute's not for me?
yeah, oh yeah. So in that time, I did find a place in Hackensack. Through and actually, people at work helped me find this place. When my see, the thing is, when I did this commute, this is the way I've always lived my life. Um, I don't like to complain about things. My bosses didn't even know about my commute. They had no idea I was doing this commute. They had no idea, and I didn't tell anybody, just because if someone asked me, I would have told them. But I'm not going to go out of my way and tell people because everybody has their problems. Everybody's dealing with, and that's just the way I look at life. So when they found out, they did find out through one of my coworkers. They decided to have my team. They had a small team, basically take the day off and find me an apartment. Yeah, they literally told them to stop working. We're going to spend this day. We're going to find Mike an apartment. So we found an apartment in Hackensack. My commute went from 7 hours to 6 hours. That's it. I took about an hour off the trip. It wasn't much better. Same problem with the buses, and things are different now. Thank God, buses are. But yeah, that I would say after I got that apartment, living there about a year, and I realized, wow, nothing's changing as far as my commute. I was very close to thinking maybe I should just head home and find a new career, find a new career. But that's when I put on that in my head. I said, you know what, they'll do this for a few more years, suck it up. And if you have this plan and you're going to go to them and tell them what you're going to do, work from home, if it works, great. If it doesn't, then you need to find a new career. And that's what I did. I just kind of sucked it up, moved, worked my tail off for those 3 years. And then I went in and then I had that meeting with them and it all worked out. It worked out just incredibly. Because yeah, I
Mm.
was very close. I was very close, I would say, to having a nervous breakdown, to be honest. Yeah. There were some days where it was hard. It was hard. I was on
Yeah.
the phone with the bus company and they can care less.
Mm.
They can really care less. So sometimes I'd be stuck in the middle of the Port Authority. I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know how to get home. They were like, well, the bus is not coming tonight. I said, what do you mean it's not coming tonight? What am I going to do? Well, you're going to have to figure out something. So I would go back to work. I'd say, look, I have nowhere to go. Sometimes they got me a hotel. Sometimes they couldn't. So if they didn't, I would just sleep in my chair. And that's all I can do, and then I would work that day and try to get home that night. So that went on for a while. That happened a bunch of times.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I said, I wish I had a really good lawyer back then. I think I probably could have owned New Jersey Transit by now, but you know, incredibly, I never even thought about that. Like the people telling me, you should have sued them, this, and I never even thought of that. I just kind of was dealing with my own situation. But
Mm.
yeah, I would say that around that time, and I came very close to thinking this might be a new career might be in order.
Yeah. I mean, just to go back to age of 19, being in a wheelchair to coming to terms with it, in your late 20s. So let's call it give or take a decade. Just for anybody listening going through something really, really hard, you've been in it for a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years. There is hope from what I'm hearing for you, to find that peace, that acceptance, that surrender.
Correct,
Mm.
correct. And I'd say, ultimately, anything we do in life, we have to do it on our own, right? But like the ultimate decision comes down to what you decide to do. But if you surround yourself with the right team, and in my situation, that is my faith, that's God, and my family.
Mm.
And that is honestly, that's my team. So moving forward, any decision I ever make, small, big, whatever it might be, it somehow involves God and it somehow involves my family. That could
Mm.
be just sitting down with someone to talk to them. That could just be a 30-second prayer. It could be anything of those sorts. But before I make that final decision, that's what I do. So if you're out there and you're thinking there's no hope, and even if you're out there and you're thinking, I don't even have anybody really that supports me, what I would say is you are your own boss. You make your own decisions. And in your heart, if you know the right path to take, and if you take that right path, people will flock to you. Like you will find people of like mind that are going through the same struggles. They're just going to be attracted to you. It could be one person, it could be, but they will find you or you will find them. And then your path will get a little bit easier. So even if you're on your own and I mean, you're really on your own, you have no one. No one believes in you. No one thinks that you can do it, but your heart is telling you to do something and you're really trying to maybe get out of something, an addiction or whatever it might be. You know what to do. Do it because I promise you, people of like mind will find you and that'll help you through your journey.
I've realized that to be very true through my own journey as well. And there's a Viktor Frankl quote that actually there's two Viktor Frankl quotes that I'd like to share. The first is, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
Mm,
And that's what I heard in your story. That's what I've experienced in my own. And that's part of the blessing of struggle or an immovable obstacle, is when you can't change it, when you can't move it the way that maybe you hoped you could move it, you're forced to change yourself. And then the second quote, also from Viktor Frankl: those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. And I'm
mm.
curious, what is your why for continuing to push on, for dealing with the commute, for standing up and making that plan and asking for what you wanted from your bosses, and for just showing up every day with a smile on your face? What is the why behind that?
Yeah, wow. That's a really good question. Um, I don't know. When you're younger, you want to prove people wrong. So, and not in an angry way. Well, maybe there's some anger behind it if you're overcoming something where a lot of people are telling you you can't do it, right? But I never really had anybody in my life tell me, "Oh, you can't do this." I had a lot of people that were very cautious when I was going to make a decision that because of my disability or because of my situation, they would say, Mike, maybe that's not the best thing for you.
Hmm.
But I don't know. When I wanted to do something, and I really, like I said, I prayed on everything. Any decision I made, I always prayed about it. And if I really felt it was the right thing to do, I was going to do it. And my family understood that. Um, there were times when just the commute alone, how many times they were just pulling me aside saying, what are you doing? How could you do this? There were nights I'm on my bus. I'd finally pull up to Howell. Finally, after a ridiculous commute, I get to the bus stop and then I can't get off the bus because the lift won't work. So how many nights my brother Donald, God bless him, would have to come. He'd get on the bus. He'd have to lift me up, carry me off the bus, carry the wheelchair off the bus, right? Um, then there were times where I'd get on the lift and the lift would just stop. So now, Joe, I have 50 people that are already on the bus, commuters, who are all angry zombies anyway. And now they're all mad at me. So now I'm dealing with this lift. I'm dealing with people mad at me because they're all, why can't you take a different bus? Why can't I had people yelling at me. It's raining on me. And I got people, yelling at me. So I often ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I would often have that conversation, especially in prayer. I'd say, God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Am I like, can't you give me something else to do? Or maybe I should be doing something else. And I just remember him keep saying, like, it'll get easier and I'll always be with you.
Hmm.
That's always what he said to me. And it did. Over the years, it always got easier and easier and easier. And even those times that I'm sitting on that lift, after a while, I would actually start laughing sometimes, or I really would. And often that would make people upset because, when they see me laughing, they don't like to see that I wasn't angry or apologetic. And my dad used to always say to people, if someone's really angry at you, just say, God bless you. Walk up to some, God bless you. Because A, you mean it, but B, that just seems to really tick them off. For whatever reason, it really seems to tick people off. So my why is, I guess, I just always felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I didn't want anything physical to get in my way, right? If it was a mental thing and it really drove me to the point where I said, like I mentioned before, I almost had a nervous breakdown. Of course, if it really got to that point, I think I would have, by not even by my own choice, but probably would have had to stop what I was doing.
Hmm.
But when there are physical things in my way, I always feel like I can conquer them, no matter
Hmm.
what it is. No matter what it is, I always feel like, and maybe it's just a little self challenge in me, maybe it's a little pride or something, but I kind of, I kind of like those challenges, right? If you put a roadblock in front of me, I don't have to necessarily always go through that wall because I can't physically do that, but I can find my way around the wall.
Hmm.
And that's what I've really done my entire life. I more or less have found my way around walls as opposed to gone through them, right?
That's such a great image. Now, this is something that you didn't get to choose for yourself, but you've handled it through the hard times, through the harder times, and through the easier times.
Mhm.
What is the hardest thing you've ever chosen to do on purpose, and why did you choose to do that thing?
So the hardest thing I've ever done on purpose is definitely accept the commute that I had to deal with. It
Mm.
really does. It, the commute, um, I knew after a while, I knew about a month in. See, what happened was I got hired. I interned at the place where I'm working now. So literally the day after I graduated, I got a call and they're saying, "Oh, we want to hire you." I said, "Oh, great. When?" They said, like, "Can you start on Monday?" And this is like a Thursday. I had no plan. I'm living down here. I don't even know how to get up there. I don't know anything about buses. I don't know anything. So I just ran with it. And so that has always been the hardest thing for me because about a month in, I realized this commute is not going to change.
Mm.
And I can either just stop it now or I can move forward and do it. So I did that for about 12 solid years, that commute, before I finally went in and told them that I need to work from home or this is probably it for me. And honestly, if they said no, I still don't know if I would have quit. I think I don't know if I would have stuck with that commute, but I probably would have thought of something else to do or at least
Mm.
tried something else because um, I don't I don't like um, I'm not saying giving up, but
Mhm.
and it's not like I don't like to be told no, but I don't like to fail. I don't like to fail. Yeah, who does? But I really don't like to fail, let myself down.
When I was in school, my parents encouraged me to advocate for myself, to, sit at the front of the room, get homework that had bigger text on it, ask for extra time if I needed it because of my eyes. And I never did any of those things because I just didn't want to be different. I didn't want the help. I wanted to just do it like everybody else was doing it. And why I'm sharing that is because I'm curious for you if you've ever had trouble advocating for yourself, because
Yes,
it sounds like that's something you've had to learn.
sure, absolutely. I 100% relate to what you're saying, especially at a younger age like that. It's our parents, God bless them. We have great parents where everything they told us, they're right. Like those are things we probably should have done, right? We should ask for the extra help, or it's not wrong to ask for help. I think for me, when I was younger, I chose to ignore like you did those reaching out for the extra help and do it on my own. I would say though, as I got maybe around your age, what you are now, what are you like 29? I think so, right? 29, 30.
Right on the dot. Yeah.
There you go. So I think around that age, I started to realize it's okay to have other people help me. It's okay. It's not admitting any sort of defeat. Um, it's okay to have people help you because you've been doing it all your life. You've been helping other people. So why can't you let people help you? Right. Um, I think there's a big misunderstanding of weakness, um, the word meekness and weakness, right?
Mm.
So weakness is something that has such a negative connotation. You're weak. You can't do something. But meekness is something where you can't do something on your own. You need other people's help, but it's okay. It's like there's a humility in it, and it's you learn a lot about yourself when you let yourself go to for other people. Like you let them help you. Um, if you stay humble, you kind of feel better about yourself when you can allow people to that truly want to help you to do it. Let them help. Let them do it, and it does make you feel better. When you know that you let other people help you. So, yeah, I would say you're probably already know this, Joe, now at your age, as I can see what you're doing in your life. You're helping other people, but you're allowing other people to help you now, right? You're not taking this journey on your own I mean, not even close, right?
Mhm.
So, that's what it's all about. It's all about finding those people or letting them find you and just running with it, just running with it.
Yeah. And I would just, for people listening out there who have opinions on social media or are putting themselves out there online or are not because they're afraid of what might
Hmm.
happen, if you're authentic, if you're yourself, if you have a message or a mission and you feel in your heart and your gut that it's right, put it out there because you never know who's on the other side of that computer screen, who is on the other side of that phone, who needs that message, who is feeling the same things that you're feeling, who needs to hear what you're struggling with to be able to build up the courage to open up about what they're struggling with. And it's just this like I feel so convicted, more and more convicted with each and every conversation I have, that we just need to be able and open to talk about the hard things and to talk about the things we're struggling with and to ask for help, because it opens up all these opportunities to form really deep connections and for other people to realize that, like, hey, I'm not alone. Joe's struggling with that too, or Mike's gone through that as well, and I can reach out for help. That's okay. And we form this web that's a lot stronger than any one of us could be individually. But it's hard just to recognize that, to break that resistance and actually reach for help.
I think you hit it on the head. That I think a lot of people have this image in their mind, and I'm not really sure where it comes from. You might be able to answer this better than I could, but we have this image that, like you said, no one has gone through what I've gone through. No one will understand what I'm going through. Again, I don't know where that comes from. That could just be coming from someone who grew up without the support of a family, whatever it might be. But in the end, there is 100% someone out there that feels the way you feel, 100%. And if you do put yourself out there in the right forum, um, you will, like I said, you will find like-minded people, and you could build a connection with those people, and it can make your life just so much better, and it allows you to just be yourself more and more,
Mm,
take on more challenges, take on those projects, whatever it might be that you never even thought you could do before.
mhm,
And yeah, I mean, I'm 52 now, and I learn something new every day, and every day it's a struggle to let people help me, but I do it. I just
mm,
surrender to it,
mm,
and in the end, it's the best decision I make that at that moment is just by letting that person help me. Um, it's not really a pride or a stubbornness. It's more of a I just feel like, I guess, because most of my life, when it came to like I said, the ultimate decision, it's always been my decision. I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. No one's going to stop me. But as I get older and I have more issues physically,
mm,
um, that becomes harder to do. So but now I realize, wow, there are just so many people out there that want to help. And just recently, not, it's on topic. I reconnected with a friend from college who's also disabled,
mm,
and it just could not have come at a more right time for both of us,
mm,
because we're now both in our 50s. We're both now kind of experiencing different things with our disabilities as far as the challenges and the struggles, and we just reconnected and we talk just nonstop now. And I'm there for him, he's there for me, and it's amazing, just amazing.
mm.
And it's something that I posted something, I can't remember what it was, one day on Facebook, and he saw it, and then he called me, and boom, that was it. Like, I'm like, wow, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you never know who's watching. And that goes for things that are happening online and also things that are happening in person every day in real life.
Mhm.
You never know who is absorbing what you're doing in whatever form, whether they're watching you hold the door for somebody, whether they're experiencing a genuine compliment that you gave them, whatever it is, right? We create these ripple effects with what we do. And it might just give somebody the courage to reach out. It might give somebody the courage to stand up and say, I need help. And so we should just show up as our authentic selves and not hold back. Now, there's another element of all of this that I'm interested to hear your take on.
Mhm.
For this podcast, episode 7 with Hannah Huxley, she is in a wheelchair for a different reason, but she touched on this element of gratitude. Gratitude for all the things that she's able to do because of all of the things that she can't. And I'm curious for you, is as you've lost more and more physical function and physical strength, has there been more and more gratitude for the things that you can do? How do those two things interact, the loss and the gratitude?
Hmm. That's really interesting. That's a really, really interesting perspective. Um, hmm. I would say, honestly, that for me, it's leading by example. It's I'm finding myself as I get older, as my disability becomes more difficult. Um, I also have cancer. I don't know if I mentioned that to you or not. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah, I have cancer. So actually, I had it diagnosed in 2011, prostate cancer. But because of my disability, there are too many issues with operating. We did radiation, but it kind of worked, didn't work, and it came back about a year and a half ago. Um, Came back a little bit stronger. It's still centered in the prostate. I'm currently under treatment for that, hormones, take hormone injections, things like that. Um, it's tough. It's really, really tough. That's been real hard. Again, that's a new struggle for me, that I've taken upon myself. But I would say that I learned a lot about, okay, I thought my life was tough, with a disability. And as I got older, but now I realize how this treatment is just knocking me out. So I have days where it's like, wow, I wish I was back to where I was, you know, a year ago. I thought that was tough. I wish I was there. I wish I was at that tough. So, yeah, I mean, the why is like, okay, why am I doing this? But I kind of now I can move forward and say, I'm glad, I'm glad that I learned so much from my own disability, how I dealt with it, because that has now helped me with this new problem. And the way my mind, I keep myself focused, my mental focus, excuse me. And again, reaching out for help, letting people help me. Those are things, the humility, the surrender,
Mhm.
and my faith. My faith has never been stronger than it's ever been before. So I would say that those are the things that have come out of the my whys is all those instances. If that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. And it made me think of something that happens every now and then in my life where I'll be going through something challenging. It might be big, it might be small, doesn't really matter. But every once in a while, I'll think 60 years ahead. And all of a sudden, I'm 89 years old and I'm, nearing death. And my body doesn't work like it does right now. And I just feel this really deep, profound sense of sadness that sometimes only lasts for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel so sad because I could imagine what it could feel like only for a few seconds to be running out of time. And then I come back to the present moment and I feel a whole lot better about whatever it is that's going on because I realize that I have the time and I have the health and things could always be worse. And whatever I'm struggling with right now is likely small in comparison to all of the hardship and struggle that I will go through for the rest of my life because that's life. It's hard.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Like what you're dealing with now is definitely easier than what that you're going to be dealing with 20 years from now. That's 1,000% right. So you have to live it. You have to live your life day by day. Like you really do, because you don't know what's going to come around the corner. You don't know what you're going to be dealing with, a year from now, a day from now, a week from now. So, I mean, I know it's easy to say to people, like, okay, you got to live day by day. Like, just take it day by day, especially people out there right now listening that are just going through just something terrible and they feel like there's no hope whatsoever. All I could say to that is the fact that you're still functioning right now, you're still alive, you're still breathing. That's all the hope you need at that moment. So now just take that maybe just a little bit further, okay? Go outside, take a walk, or make a phone call. Call that place you didn't want to call for help. You've been, picking up that phone a million times, or reach out to that friend that always said, "Hey, if you ever need anything, like do it, like really do it, and see what happens." Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say, "Oh, no, I can't help you." No, no, probably that's not going to happen. What's probably going to happen is like, "Oh my God, thank God you called. What I'll be over there in 10 minutes. What can I do? Let's do this. Let's do it together." So there's always got to be a little hope. Like keep that hope alive within you, because like I said, at this moment you're breathing. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're that means you're functioning. You're here. You're here in the now. So just take that moment, take that seed, and just take it a little bit further. It doesn't have to be giant leaps, just a little bit at a time. You have a long life ahead of you, right? You have a lot to live for. Even if you're on your own right now, just never give up hope. Like ever give up hope.
I think you just answered the last question of the podcast that I didn't ask yet, which is great, but we might as well go there now. And so, if somebody's going through a really
Mhm.
tough time and you just said all of that and they absorbed it and they still feel like they need a little bit more, is there anything else that you would add on to that for somebody who's struggling right now?
Sure. Um, Again, now for me, this is just me personally, okay? And I know this could be often divisive in the society we live in, but if you've thought about turning to God ever in your life, I don't care if you were, grew up in a household that didn't believe in God or whatever. Right now, you're an adult, right? You make your own decisions. Give it a shot. Like reach out to God, like in your own mind. You don't have to. do anything drastic. Try to start a conversation with them. Tell them how mad you are at them. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all like, you know, happy and joyful. And if you're angry at them, tell them why you're angry at them. But start a conversation with them. Again, I don't want. I'm not coming on here to preach, about God, but I'm just telling you from my own experience. When I've been at my lowest, when I've been at my, and I've had some low moments along with my family, I always start a conversation with God. And some of them have been pretty harsh, where I've yelled, like, I've said some pretty terrible things to him. But in the end, he's always been there for me, and he's always shown me the right way, and he's got me to where I am today. So if you are out there and you're someone who feels like you have no hope, you feel like you've reached, everyone you can reach out to and no one's helping you, and well, what do you have to lose? Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
I think that is the perfect message for somebody out there. I know it's the message that I needed at a certain point in my life, and a message that I got and acted on. And I can't imagine my own life without faith. And I think there's this really beautiful piece of the human experience that we often don't include in what we think is beautiful, but it's the lows, it's the just deep gut emotion of being sad and down and maybe borderline hopeless and discouraged. And it's only at that point that you can form the deepest of relationships, and that includes the one with God. And I just think it's a really beautiful place to be, even if it's a really painful, ugly, messy, and hard place to be at the same time. Because I don't think those things are exclusive. I think you can be sad and down and hurt and in
Mm-hmm.
pain, and also experience the beautiful parts of life in that place. So thank you for that.
I would also, if I can add just on that a little bit, that the one thing I hear people say all the time, especially I guess it's for people with addictions, is that, oh, so and so is not going to turn his life around until he hits rock bottom, right? I'm like, no, like, you don't have to listen to it. Like, you don't have to go to rock bottom. Just start now. Like, you don't have to go to that rock bottom. Don't listen to what other people are saying. A lot of people, I even hear that's said in, like, counselors say that to people, like, until you hit rock bottom. Like, that's not true. I don't believe
Mm,
that at all.
mm,
Don't go there. Don't get to rock bottom. Right? Start now.
mm,
Right? And I don't know. I just want to add that because that really bothers me when people say, you know, and that's on your point about some of our lowest lows. And so,
mm,
yeah, that's where you are right now. If you're upset and you're depressed and you're angry and you're listening to this right now and you're at that point, okay, now let's start moving forward now. Let's go. Like, let's go. Like, now. Like,
mm.
do it now. Don't worry about, like, people saying, you got to wait till you hit rock bottom, or no, no, your rock bottom's right now. Go, move forward. That's it.
I love that. I love that. Your rock bottom's right now. Yeah. What is stopping somebody from deciding that this is the floor and that it's only up from here? And maybe that really is just a decision that we have to make for ourselves. And I think that's such a great message. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, that's just, it really bothers me. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that because I think it's such a cliche thing to say when you see people suffering and,
Mm,
oh, when they hit rock bottom, they hit rock bottom. It's a terrible thing to say to someone. I'm sorry. It really is.
mm.
Instead of saying that, reach out and maybe help that person.
Yeah.
Um, you say, oh, I want to help them, but I can't help them until they hit rock bottom. It's like, it's sad. It's sad to hear people say that.
Mm. Well, like I said, we went out of order a bit. So the next
So I
question I'll
apologize for that.
that's okay. You're the first guest in almost 100 that threw me off course.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
but what I'll say is I'm going to throw a quote in here, and then we'll end with what will end up being the last question. But the quote is from Anne Lamott, who said, "Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work. You don't give up." And I think just to echo your message of, right, you wait and watch
Mhm.
and you work and you don't give up, and you can start right now, and hope can be here right now. And I just think that's what somebody needs. So I wanted to reiterate that.
No, I agree. That's a tremendous quote. I think that's what I think I was trying to say in so many ways. But yeah, like now it begins right now. Like this
Mm,
second you're listening to this, it begins right now. And again,
mm,
it doesn't have to be giant steps. Just take a little step forward, and each time take a little step forward. And also, again, a cliche statement is when you fall down, get right back up. But that is so true. That is so true. You have to get up. You
mm,
have to get up, right? You
mm,
can't lay there. You can't lay there because,
mm,
yeah, there are people out there that are going to help you and everything, but you have to get up. You have to make an effort to get up.
mm,
Even the effort alone could be enough sometimes. Like the effort. If you start to get up, someone might be there to help you get all the way up. So,
mm.
I mean, that's what happened again. Not to, but that's what happened to Jesus. Like he was falling, and that's why I like Simon Serene is always just like an inspiration to me, that story, because Jesus just couldn't get up anymore. Like he couldn't get up physically. He couldn't get up, and it was like this man helped him up. He didn't know this
Mm,
man. He didn't know, like I find that story so inspirational. I think there are so many Simon Serenes out there that can help you get up.
mm,
You might not know them right now, but they're going to help you get up.
mm.
And you might not even see them again ever, but they're there to help you. Take the help and just move forward after that.
Yeah. I have this image now. I can't shake it for some reason of a little kid tripping and falling who's trying to learn how to walk or learn how to
Mm-hmm.
run. And say there's a group of adults around that child who falls, those adults are going to encourage that child. They're going to say, "Oh, get back up. You can do it." There's a lot of encouragement there. And we live in a world now where sometimes it feels like we fall and all these adults are around us. They're our peers
Yes.
now. And sometimes we don't feel like we get any of that. Nobody's saying, get back up. You can do it. Try again. Here's a hand. It's just, oh, well, that's too bad. And life is hard. But to your point, if you get back up, if you continue to move forward, if you stay true to yourself, the right people will find you. And that's one of the reasons why I started this, why I started Project
Yes.
Endure, why I
Mm-hmm.
care about this community and this mission is because there are people out there, and I'm hoping one by one to gather those people so that we just have this massive support system for anybody who is either going through something hard that they didn't choose and or doing something hard that they chose on purpose, to just lift them up and encourage them and support them, because that's what we all need. So, with that being said, I do want to ask you this next question and we'll wrap up after this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Project Endure podcast. And when you hear the word endurance for you, Mike, what comes to mind?
Um, when I think of endurance, it's something I just mentioned before. It's to me, it's when I do fall, when things get hard. It's just a matter of continuing to move forward. It's continuing to get up and move forward. It really is like because you're not going to fall once. You're going to fall so many times. But endurance to me is continuing to move forward, to continuing to get up, continuing to just move forward, right? No matter
Mm,
what's behind you, move forward, and actually learn from what's behind you because that'll help you. It really will help you in the future when you know the mistakes that you've made, and that'll help in your endurance to move forward. So, endurance to me is consistently moving forward. Whether sometimes you'll have to do it on your own, but so many times there's people out there that'll help you move forward. You can move forward with those people
mm.
and that'll get you through so much, so much. And for me, it's my faith and family for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, Mike, I know you're not huge on social media. Like many of our guests are, they're on Instagram, they're on these different platforms. But if people resonated with what you had to say, or they
Mm-hmm.
want to reach out and they think you'd be a good person to talk to, where is the best place for somebody to do that, to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm on Facebook a lot. You can definitely reach out to me. It's my full name, so it's Mike Skrzenski. Um, it's I'm on Facebook. Yeah, I don't do really Instagram or TikTok or anything like that, but yeah, I have no problem. If you want to reach out, you know, more than welcome. I'm here. So if I can help you, I will. Or if I can at least give you some guidance or a few words or maybe point you in the right direction based on my own experiences, I'd be more than happy to do it for sure. No
Yeah.
problem at all. No problem at all.
Well, from the little kid that you did that exact thing for 18-ish years ago. Just thank you for that. And thank you
Mm.
for this. And thank you for everything that you do, because it doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.